The Blokebusters podcast is proud to be a member of the Podbros Network. You can find us, as well as other fantastic podcasts such as Pencil and Ink Review, Another Damn Trivia Show, and The Language of Bromance at podbros.com, as well as on most other fine podcasting services. Now sit back, relax, and prepare to share and enjoy the Blokebusters podcast.
Welcome to episode 76 of the Blokebusters podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Paul.
And joining us today is a very special guest. Brought himself out of the restroom for this one. It is Honor Knight.
Hey, thanks, guys. Rare appearance out of the restroom. Rare.
We know how you like it in there, nice and cozy.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And drunk.
And yes.
Yes, an even rarer sober appearance by her.
Yeah, it's very rare.
We're, this one's, quite privileged here.
I class it up every now and then.
Well, don't spoil us, too.
Yes. and you're, of course, our second ever main review guest, and the first one was Kayleen. So,
yes.
So far, we're only pulling from the restroom.
Yeah, I like how my co-flusher got on the show before I did. Nice. Well, to be fair, though, she's better looking. She's better looking than me, so I don't blame you.
Which is why we brought her on for an audio
for an audio format, yes.
And you had her on for a major motion picture, and I get this. This is what I get.
Well,
yeah.
To be fair, I don't know. Well, we'll see how the feelings flesh out here.
Yeah, we'll definitely be getting into that a bit later.
But yes, we haven't even said what we're talking about. The people know because I'm sure we have this titled. But
yes, the title is always in it now at this point. Yeah, thanks to my Doctor Strangelove borrowing for titling.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But yes, this is our episode where we are going to be talking about the 2015 or 2016, depending on which one you look at. It was officially released in 2015, The Little Prince, and it is now on Netflix, and I've had two people definitely say that we should review this, and upon watching it, I think both myself and Brian decided we needed to review this.
It was a pretty easy decision for us. Yeah.
So we decided to bring in someone that likes to rip on films as well.
Not dislikes. I think it's how he survives. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, the first problem is, guys, I thought we were watching Purple Rain because you guys said a Little Prince, right? So
we can switch gears. I can go into Purple Rain if you want.
Now I don't know how good I'm going to be now, guys. I don't know. I got a whole different experience out of this film. This is awkward.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll muster through. I'll figure it out. Good. But Prince is not in this, right? Am I correct on this?
He is not, as far as I'm aware. Maybe there's
only
in
spirit.
Prince.
Could be.
All right. Okay. No, I actually. No, I did see this. No.
But Apollonia is, I think, she is in this. Yeah.
All right. So, this film was directed by Mark Osborne and a budget of $77.5 million, supposedly. I didn't get that verified. And a box office, because it did get released in cinemas, worldwide, $97,571,250 US dollars. Now, it's a little odd saying that in US dollars because only 1.4% of that was in America. Because it only got released in just under 150 cinemas over here.
So, I wasn't even aware of a theatrical release for this.
Yeah, so. I didn't know it got one either. Okay.
Yeah, so it is now obviously under everyone's radar just because of Netflix bringing it to the fore there, and I do get the feeling that there's probably going to be more cinematic showings of it in future. Probably, at the very least, when they're showing a whole bunch of like kid films and stuff.
It wouldn't surprise me if one of the theaters that we go to pops it in there in the morning. But
and also because we completely forgot to do this about
4
minutes ago, do find us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Just search Blokebusters.
Yeah.
You can email us, blokebusterpodcast@gmail.com. Yes, Google is your friend. And then we do have a website, blokebusters.webs.com.
Or if you're a binger, stop listening.
Yes,
we don't want bingers.
Yeah, that just sounds weird, actually. Yeah, I'm a binger.
Just like a fan of Chandler,
I suppose, or a Bing Cosby fan, I suppose. Alright, so, how about the plot?
Would you like us?
Sure, why not?
Yes, alright. Well, a little girl lives in a very grown-up world with her mother who tries to prepare her for it. Her neighbor, the aviator, introduces the girl to an extraordinary world where anything is possible, the world of the Little Prince. Yeah. So that's kind of what we have going on here.
Yes. So, where do you think we should actually start?
I'm really dying to know what Honor thinks of this. So I don't know if I can be patient any longer.
Yeah, no,
I'm not sure what the consensus is on this, guys. It's got some issues. It does have some issues across the board.
Okay.
I didn't.
How about you go into those issues one by one?
All right, I feel like this is quickly turning into the prosecution and the defense, but okay. Go ahead, prosecutor.
Well, the main issue is length. I think that's I think what kills it overall. I think the film is too long. It's listed as 108 minutes. I think maybe if it was a solid 90. I think the first two acts needed to be trimmed up to really impact the third act and the final act, I should say. And I think because they are so bloated, the first two acts, by the time you get to the emotional stuff at the end of the film, it definitely loses some impact. That's the main thing that I noticed is why it takes a long time to get to where we're getting. It front loads it a lot. I said the film should have been called Everyone Wants to Be Pixar because it's very Pixar-ish in the beginning of the film. And then later on, it gets into a couple different styles of animation. But it's with the mother, the single mother, and, the kid, and this old fucking guy, this creeper guy we'll talk about. We're way into Pixarville again. I know it's a French company that did this, and he said the budget was, $81 million. I'm going to say right off the bat, the animation is beautiful. There's two different styles of animation. One's that paper mache thing they've been doing, and then one's your standard Pixar animation. So the issue is not the animation. So I'm not going to this is not Food Fight, so we're not going to I can't really flush anything about the animation. It looks good. It looks like it should for an animated film. But there's other thematic and narrative issues that are going on here. I think that really kind of hampers it from being a classic.
Okay, well, first and foremost, I am going to tell you that you are wrong about the length of this film. Because
I don't think so. All right.
No, he's right. It is at 108 minutes.
Okay. I don't mean the fact that the actual runtime. I'm saying that I don't think it was long
felt
at all.
108.
I thought that everything that was in this film needed to be in it.
I don't know about that. All right, go ahead. I don't know. All right, go ahead.
But I just felt that there was so much in it that could feel extraneous, but then as you go through the film, you realize just how much they're actually using the time to show you something that then will come back in an important way later. And then also just they were willing to spend the time giving you the gorgeous visuals of the film and letting it just kind of sink in rather than making sure there had to be a gag here just to keep you laughing or making sure that everything in it was dialogue. They were able to let the film rest on its visuals as much as its story. So, and that's my point of view anyway.
I'm kind of following, always the moderate here, kind of falling in between the two, where it was a little longer than I would typically like an animated film to be. Mm-hmm. I do like them in at about a tight 90,
I can understand that.
But that being said, I wasn't feeling overly impatient or anything, although when we did get to the end, I was ready for it. I was ready for my experience to be concluded, even though I was really enjoying it.
Yeah, but that's the problem. The film keeps unfolding plot as it goes along, and just the once we'll talk about it later. There's a sequence that happens where it's really the natural end for the movie, but then it goes into a whole nother 25-30 minutes of story that really, this could have been truncated. The absence of having gags it really kind of blows out the running time because now that you don't have the gags that keep your attention going. Not that this film needed gags, it didn't need gags, but that not having that, in absence of that, you're relying on narrative, and your narrative better be damn good. It better be that involving. I didn't think it was that involving. I think it just, in terms of, it was very stagnant, at least the first two acts. In terms of maintaining the narrative. So without,
Paul is ripping his shirt open and turning green right now. But
I know, but it's
for the podcast listeners.
And to be fair, length is really subjective. I mean, I watched, like, for instance, James Cameron's The Abyss, which nearly runs 3 hours, feels like an hour and a half film because it's just so good and you're so invested in that film. You don't notice the time. But here you really notice the time because I think you get thrown out of the film a couple different times, while you're watching it. It's a watch checker. It's a watch checker to understand what the point of the film and where it's going. Because it really is one film and then it becomes like another film and then it kind of trying to wraps around with the spiritual ending that most kids aren't going to fucking get. In fact, I had to watch it. I had to figure it out myself. But then again, I flush really bad films every week. So yeah, my bar's way low on some of these, but, now that Paul's steaming up, where do you want to go from here, sir?
Do you want to go punch a wall while I go take over for a minute?
I think we have picked the perfect guest for this. We needed someone to counterpoint us.
Yes, because it's not interesting for us to just go gushy all over this film for an hour. So, yeah, no one wants to hear that. But
well, I'm not 100% sure exactly where to go from this. Although one thing I do want to bring up is the fact that at no point in this film is it ever stated whether or not the Little Prince genuinely existed. Like it is.
No, I don't think he did. I think it's metaphorical. I don't think it was. Yeah, I don't think it was an actual fucking kid. I mean, come on, it's a book. I mean, he's living on a small planet. Come on, man.
I have news for you. None of it was real.
Yeah, but I'm talking in the way that this film was built is that this girl is seeing all this is real, and therefore that's the way that it's portraying it. And yet the film goes to extraordinary lengths to never state one way or the other whether or not this is entirely in her head as she's learning how to be a kid, or whether is some truth behind it. And I thought there's actually a fantastic point that I didn't think about until the second time I watched it, and obviously this is jumping about a little bit, but the point where she decides she's going to go and find the Little Prince because the old creeper next door neighbor is in the hospital and she feels that
who's playing the long game, like
it really is. But she ends up sneaking out so that she can get to the airplane, and she's holding on to the drain pipe, which then falls off and she hits the ground and blacks out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so all this is everything from that point forward is happening in her head. Then it's she's not. Yeah, she's
that's the thing. It's like from then on, it's all in her head. But how much of it is her just say sitting in the plane and imagining it, or does she genuinely think she's going on this or anything like that? And the way the film portrayed, you don't know that either. It is just all you're seeing is from her perspective. This is what's going on.
Yeah, but I just thought she was just knocked out, and she had this whole thing, and then she just woke up where she landed.
I thought for sure they were going to show her in the.
And wake up, and then she just went back in the house. So I never thought she went anywhere. She literally fell and she knocked her head and had this, and lived out the rest of it. Right. And then came back and brushed her teeth,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that anyone watching this film can take either one, whichever one they want it to be, because of how this film is put together.
Personally, I believe he's about as real as Mufasa is after the stampede. He's in the stars. We get it. Yeah,
yes.
that's yeah.
Yeah, it's all metaphor. I mean, no.
Yeah, and
all those food fight characters I did believe were real. So don't fucking around with them. But,
yeah, well, in the world of food fight, yeah, they are real.
They were real. See, I mean, Paul has to cop to that. But they're two wildly different films. I don't know what the episode number is, folks. So you're on your own.
Yeah, I did know, but I don't anymore.
You blocked it out.
Yeah, I'm blocking everything out to do with that film. But yeah, I just love how many different ways you can look at this film. Like, I began to think on the second viewing that what this entire film is from the kids' perspective, the way that all of the adults are all acting the same. All the radio stations are just like numbers were crunched and then they were put in a vault. And like, it seems to me like that is what a child thinks the adult world is like. It's boring. It's repetitive.
They've forgotten how to be a child. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the entire film is told from within her head, basically. Like, it's her view of the world. Like, that's my take on it.
Are you going to like Jacob's Ladder with this? Like she's just where like it should have panned out like she's in a mental ward and she's just like rocking back and forth in front of a window.
No,
knitting something that's not there.
No, I think it's a point of view type thing rather than it's all her stuck in her head. Because obviously she actually is doing some of these things. But
I like that, maybe her overbearing mother made her go insane. Now she's locked up.
Yeah, she actually, from the moment that life plan came out, she just suffered a stroke.
She just had an aneurysm. She's out. Yeah.
Well, the mother's definitely an A-type personality because that's how it sets up, and because she, it's a single mother who was divorced from her old man who lives in another city, and obviously he's lost his soul completely because he keeps just mailing her snow globes.
Yeah, the worst present. If you get a snow globe, you really know someone doesn't like you.
Shitty.
So
it's a shitty game. Yeah, exactly.
Like what, you couldn't afford a chia pet? Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it does. So it has to set that up as an A-type personality for the mother in terms of she's just about to lose her own soul, and the kid's is kind of torn at this point because she has to go in one direction, and then she meets this creeper guy. But I'd say Rachel McAdams is the one who plays the mother. Yeah. I don't know if any of you guys noticed that, but man, she had a great ass, didn't she?
You know what? Honor, I knew I could count on you on this.
Say though, that's
I had quite. Like, I watched it twice, and at both times I was like, that is quite a dumper there.
That's a pretty tight ass. I didn't know if
and it's animation, so it was intentional. They did. Yeah.
I think that's a French thing. I don't know. Yeah, it was totally intentional. But she was in good shape. She looked good.
She was rocking that hourglass. Yeah, that's for sure.
It's 100 minutes. I had to find something to keep me going. I figured, well, the mother comes back on, she's going to look awesome. So
yeah, she did. Yeah, she wore those slacks well. I'll give it to you.
Sorry, Paul. That was a sidebar. That was my personal observation, but maybe you notice. Hey, in that case, the animation was great.
Yeah, well,
81 million well spent.
To be honest, I was wondering where this is going to go, and I'm not shocked it went there at all.
Well, we haven't gotten to Jeff Bridges yet, but I'm warming up to that. So, because I had a real issue with him. But go ahead.
Well, I think we should talk about, before we get into like the main characters, like all of the side characters that were in this. I think they're all so well done. Like, you had, James Franco was the fox.
That was creepy, but alright, yeah, he was the fox. The animation on the fox was really good, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, so you got James Franco as the fox, and I didn't know it was James Franco the first time, and then when I saw his name in the credits.
Why wouldn't that be James Franco?
Yeah, I listened to it again, I was like, wow, yeah, that's quite good. And then you've got Benicio del Toro was the snake. Like, that's a random pick for the snake.
Considering the snake only had like 4 or 5 lines, they could have probably got somebody cheaper, I would have thought, but alright.
Yeah, it's kind of nice the people they got in it. You got Paul Giamatti was the academy teacher.
Yeah.
And he did a fantastic job, I thought.
Yeah.
And my favorite, I hope you're getting to here.
Well, I'd say you got
the other call.
Well, you got the other people from the asteroid. So you got Bud Cort as the king. I don't know him off the top of my head, but I know he's been in a hell of a lot of stuff. And then Albert Brooks.
He was Harold and Maude. That was Harold and Maude.
Yeah, and he was in Dogma. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He played the male god kind of person. Yeah. And Albert Brooks was the businessman, otherwise known as Marlin from Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. Ricky Gervais was fantastic as the conceited man.
I mean, yes. I'm surprised that isn't just Ricky, his title.
Yeah, it's Ricky Gervais doing Ricky Gervais, basically. But he did well.
Yeah, he played himself well, yeah.
Well, they animated him too well to Ricky, his mannerisms. So I thought he was really matched well with the character.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if you noticed the second time you watched it, but the people that are commenting on the drawing right at the beginning, they are the conceited man, the businessman, and the king. And it is them doing it, which I thought was
further proof that this is all in her head.
Yeah,
because those are real people. Yeah.
And then so you got Riley Osborne was the little prince, and then Paul Rudd was the
I love
the grown-up
Prince.
prince.
Mr. Prince, yeah.
And I obviously Paul Rudd we know from Ant-Man among others, but I didn't recognize him. Like, I didn't recognize his voice at all.
Thought he has one of those voices that just I immediately know it's him, But
yeah, it was. I thought that the grown-up prince is probably the best voice in the whole thing. Just that put uponness. That was my last brush. I'm gonna leave my job.
Yeah. There was some nice vocal. Yeah, there was some nice vocal.
Yeah, so
the voiceover was really well done. I thought.
And yeah, as you mentioned, obviously Rachel McAdams is overkill. How are you supposed to pronounce that name again?
What?
McAdams.
How's McAdams?
That was pretty straightforward.
Well, I say it's Rachel, not Raquel, because
Rachel.
It's spelled Rachel. Mm-hmm. Now, without the extra A in there, is it Rachel or Raquel?
No, that's Rachel.
No, it's Rachel. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
and then you got Mackenzie Foy as the little girl, and the only thing I was able to find that she'd been in that I'd heard of before, haven't seen, I want to stress that very importantly right now, is Twilight. Because she played the daughter of Bella and Edward in the later...
She was the girl in Interstellar, though.
Oh, is she the young...
She's the Jessica Chastain.
Okay.
The Murphy, the crying
Murph.
in the bed girl.
Yeah, I must have skipped past that when I was reading.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then, of course, now we jump into the perv himself, Jeff Bridges, as the aviator.
the delightful pedophile.
Yeah, so,
This man.
Yes, I want to let Honor go.
It is hard to deny the pedophilic overtones in the beginning of the film.
Yeah, well, and I'm not sure. I got to first stress that I thought of all the actors, this guy was the only one that was miscast. I think for the type of character he was playing. I wish they had got someone who was a little better at doing older voices, and even Ed Asner, or anybody. But the problem is the voice he's using is the same damn voice he used in R.I.P.D. when he played that cowboy. So he sounds like he's got a wad of horse shit in his mouth the entire time. So that immediately throws you right out of the movie. He sounds awful, and it doesn't really match the look of the character. I don't know if he was just being lazy, but it doesn't work. And I thought every time he opened his mouth, I had a real issue with that. Because like I said, we flushed R.I.P.D. I don't know the episode number. Look at our signalsoffury.com. You can have it all there. But he was terrible in that. I don't think he was very good in this one, because I think if he had just done his regular voice, it would have had a more impact, I think. I think that really was an issue. And number two, yeah, he's a creeper. Was anybody else waiting for this old man to bust out his dick? Like at any point when he's hanging out with this kid? Like there was something inherently wrong with this. I know French people have no problem with this.
I mean, let's chill out under a parachute together. Let's see what happens. Tickle fight.
Yeah.
You might play with French audiences, and they don't really like a European sensibility is completely different over here. We're not as hung up on this shit as, they're not as hung up on this shit as we are. So when you're watching from American point of view, this is a little creeper, dude. I don't know, if this mom knew that, she was hanging out with this old dude, I don't know if she'd be too thrilled, because he's a weird old dude. I mean,
the mom's kind of a piece of shit, because she just leaves her 8-year-old daughter alone at home, no supervision. So, I mean, that's what you get. So,
that's true. I guess that's a babysitter point of view, but it was a little off-putting. Like all their scenes together were it's a little left of center. I know it was supposed to be endearing, and you got it. I understood. Like as it goes on, it gets a little better. But those initial scenes, like where they're hanging out, I'm like, this is not going to end well.
I was trying to attribute that just from like some American uptightness. And
yeah, I can't say I ever
just trying to appreciate that there could be a platonic relationship between these two.
Yeah,
in real, but just in terms of the way it's presented here, I thought it comes off as a little ooh.
Well, maybe it is because I am English, having grown up over there. Like, obviously I can see that it can look that way, and it is a little odd that the really old guy is becoming friends with the really young girl, but I never got that feeling watching it. Like, it was something where I could see, like, it's kind of a passing of the torch, as it were, throughout the film.
So just for future notes here, you're okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes.
No, I'm going to say you're going to be okay with your kid. Like if your next door neighbor flies in a paper airplane through her window with a note, says, "Come over to my place."
They're that's all right. But they're playing airplane. Like you expected them like to bust out his dick and be like, "Okay, pull back hard on the throttle." And this bitch is gonna fly. But no, we never got that movie. I had to put it in my head.
Aren't you glad we had honor on this?
Sorry, I know for such an important animated feature. Yes,
it is.
Well, that 100 people saw. Okay, guys, let's keep it in perspective here. They had to dump it on Netflix, and I guess people are watching it here.
The important parody is the Little Prince Albert. But
sorry, Paul. But initially, like these scenes are supposed to. I think Pixar would have handled this better. Maybe it's the design of the old man. Maybe it's the CG build of him doesn't look right, or looks a little.
You mean the walking nose?
Yes, he's got the walking nose and the beard. It's just something off-putting, I think, with the design. And again, Jeff Bridges is really miscast, I think, in this role. I think if he maybe just do his own voice, or he got somebody with a softer, older voice. Or like a Morgan Freeman, not actual Morgan Freeman, but that type of temper in his voice. I thought his character would have had more impact on the narrative and on the girl. The girl's character.
I think Jeff Daniels actually could probably have done it very well. Not just because we want to stick with the Jeffs, but I think he's got the kind, especially after watching Newsroom. I think he's got the kind of voice that just add a little bit of timbre to it, and he could do quite a good older gentleman.
Yeah, I think that was an issue for me. I just thought it kept throwing me. Aside from the design build, I thought we needed a voice that was a little more rounded than horse shit in your mouth. But I don't know how they it's just one of those things they pitch and they get it's $81 million. I'm not sure if these guys did it for scale because
they had to. Yeah, there's no way.
It's talented here that would ate up the above the line budget immediately. A lot of A-list talent here. I'm surprised. So they must have did it for next to nothing.
Well, the thing is, the original budget would be for the French release of the film. So that would be the original French actors and stuff. Whereas this is a localized version of it. So I don't know if the reported budget will include those actors or not. Or if that's the production studio that brought it over would be the one that just...
Well, I know this is dubbed. This was dubbed.
It's. I mean, it's a French studio. It originally had French.
Marianne Cotillard is the only one that was in the French. American version.
I would have more interested to see the French version than the subtitles. I think that might have had a little more impact.
It is available on Netflix, and I was actually thinking of doing that.
Why the hell didn't you mention that? I would have watched that.
French audio with the English subtitles.
That would have been
see, I
wish I'd known that too. Yeah, because that's you lose things in translation all the time.
Man, come on.
Well, you might lose things in translation, but the English subtitles is going to be the same.
Well, true, but I'd rather see. I mean, I guess on animation it's less important, but Crouching Tiger, like if you've ever watched that with like the English dub, it is one of the worst experiences.
I would have. All right, folks, we're going to hold on. We're going to take a break. We're going to go watch the French movie. And we're going to come back and finish reviewing.
Okay. We can add an amendment later on a later episode.
The people are just going to wait. Just wait, folks.
Just wait.
We're 108 minutes.
We're going to do this in real time. No, we're not pausing.
Let's keep 108 minutes from now. We'll be back with the French version.
Le Petit Prince.
I just thought I usually like to see. I didn't know that. I usually like to see it in its native because sometimes like the voices it brings a different type of performance to that. It would have been interesting to see that just with the subtitles. We're here. We got to do this, but it would have been interesting to go back and see what the original intention was. Because sometimes you get a different, with the tone, you get different, with different voices and stuff. Like even if you're reading it, it comes across differently, and it's less distracting. Some of these guys, because they have such distinctive voices, like Ricky Gervais and Paul Rudd and Jeff Bridges, that throws you out of the movie too. Because as soon as Gervais got on, I'm like, it's the guy from The Office. You immediately identify that, and you're kind of not paying attention to the character because you're kind of focused on his vocal, what he's did, his vocal performent. So
I can agree to that. To some extent.
I think it was all just the French guys, and I didn't give a shit about except Marion Cotillard. But come on, Ra's al Ghul's daughter.
Spoiler, hey.
Shit.
I've only had 9 years to get caught up now.
For the 6 people who haven't seen Dark Knight Rises, with apologies. Spoilers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But okay, all right. So that's I guess we're circling around the voice casting. I thought it was fine for the most part. I just had an issue with Bridges. McAdams, anybody could have done that role. I think they could have got Kristen Wiig. I think there's any major female actress could have done that. She's kind of. I wish there was more done with the daughter and the mother. I thought because the ending, the payoff to this at the end. It kind of rings hollow, the last scene.
A little montage. Yeah.
I wish there was some real dramatic stuff disconnect between the mother and the daughter. I thought if they play it and the film was built around that relationship, I thought it would have had a lot more impact than this old guy next door and the other dude. I mean, it starts to unravel a little bit. But I thought if they just focused on that core relation, built a little prince around those two not being able to connect and the mother losing her humanity, basically, and having to find her way back to that. Unlike the ex-husband who didn't, he's living in a snow globe, which is a great representation of that. I thought that was a good way to do that. But we needed more of an emotional connection between the mother and the daughter, and I think that would have carried it forward.
Well, I personally think that the way that they handled the relationship actually worked very well because the entire point is that the mother is, trying her best to make sure that her daughter can get to the school, but given her job and everything that's going on, she is turning into the person that left them. Like, she is becoming that distant because she's away all day. She comes back and she's like, "Have you finished your plan? Good. Eat, go to bed." Like, that's what it is. And the girl even says in the film, like, that she is turning into him.
Yeah, it's a direct mention of it.
And then she got very little attempt at redemption before the end. And then she started to realize that what her life has been doing to her daughter and the fact that now that her daughter is sort of getting to be a child again, she's seeing the error of her ways, as it were. And so I felt the end of the film was her at the beginning of trying to fix the relationship. Like, I didn't need to see the relationship get fixed. Because
they were on the path.
Yeah, well, I assumed it was the beginning of another story, as it were. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't want to
keep in mind
Little Prince too.
They had to adhere to source material too. There's,
yeah, that's understandable. Yeah. But you don't always have to adhere. I mean, they could have built up on it. I mean, the source material is not that great. I mean, everybody can, argue. It's a French story. It's okay. I mean, it's but I think you could. This is something you could have built upon, especially if you do it in America. But then again, it's a French, translation of it. So I have to, I got to cut it a wide curve. This is not an Americanized version of it, but.
Okay, two things. Number one, the original story was in French and then translated to English. Number two, the way that you stated that, the way you were saying, it sounded like you were saying, because it's French, it's not that great a story.
Well, that's exactly what.
It's not that great a story. It's French.
It's French. They've done nothing great as far as stories.
If you had any French listeners, you just lost them. So I do apologize for that.
Hey, I'm English. We automatically hate the French. So that's
No, I'm not saying. I'm not trying to crap on the whole everything coming out of France is bad. No, that's not the case. I just think that the story in general, whether it's English or French, it's not. As a super memorable story. I guess maybe it's more for American audiences. They're not, I know it's considered a classic. I get it. But, I thought maybe the original material could have been expanded. This is almost a literal translation of a lot of it. And I think a lot of that could have been left open to expand on that, to build upon it a better mythology, I think, for it. And expand out the relationships instead of just taking the literal, page from page of the book, which they do a lot of here, especially in the back end of the movie.
Talking of the original story and how it's in the film, I thought that it was so well done the way that they had a completely separate art style for the actual telling of the story.
Yeah.
And the way that they were able to transition from her reading, and then you start to see the drawing on the page move, and then it's kind of almost just falls into the actual kind of claymation.
It's like a paper mache type claymation. That's brilliant. I thought that was actually really, really done. I like that style of animation, and I thought that it had a nice, it does. It has a nice texture and feel to it, and a tactile feel to it, which really works well. I wish more of the film actually had been done like that, but you got to dip back into Pixar mode. And then it blends the two together by the end of the movie, so the two become one kind of deal. But I did like that, yes.
Although I have to say there were a couple of shots in the film that, to me, almost felt as though I couldn't tell if it was animation or just a photograph. There was one point, and I don't know if it's just because the refresh rate just happened to hit it right when I was watching it or something like that, but there's a shot where you're looking down into the waste paper basket where I think the first page that got thrown into her room and then she put it in the bin, and then later she goes back to pick it up again. And you're just looking down at the basket, and I genuinely had a moment where I was like, did they take a photo of an actual page in the basket there? And none of the rest of the actual animation, like the CG Pixar animation as you call it, none of the rest of it kind of looked like that to me, but there were just a couple of like snapshots in the film where it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it was moments like that I didn't mind the runtime, because there was always something to look at. Like, if this narrative was dragging a bit, I always had something. But
that's kind of I agree with that, and it is overall it's beautiful. But this is standard for CG. These films at this kind of budget level should look like this, and they should look this good. And but you can't. I don't think it's fair, really. I no longer judge CG films on the technical end, because the technical end is so good and it's expected. We're so inundated with basically Pixar, Disney, and DreamWorks, and Disney and Pixar are pretty much one company, that, the bar is way up there. And so these films should look like this. I mean, when you're dealing with this type of budget level. So I have to, that's the first thing I have to throw out. I have to really just go right into story, because, unless the CG is horrible, and then it becomes an issue. But it looks good because it's an $81 million budget, and it should look this good. And I do, like I said, appreciate the two different styles of animation. I thought that was kind of a bonus. But generally, at this level, this is what it should look like. I mean, it's not, I don't think it's really like a critique point, for the narrative of the film.
I can see what you're saying. However, I think the problem is, because there are so many animated films that don't look as polished as this. I think most
of them do, though, which only the really low-end ones. I mean, I'm not talking Foo Fight, because that's a whole different thing, but I'm talking, even the lower ones are pretty well polished, I think, by this point, because the technology has come up. Even the low-end stuff looks pretty good. Even TV commercials that use CG look pretty damn good. I mean, so I don't know. I don't know. What the hell channel are you watching then? Like, where are you not seeing the good? Because everything I see looks pretty sharp, and maybe I'm not watching the right channels. I don't know. You might have to cite an example of what you feel that is a lower quality. And I'm not talking Saturday morning TV stuff, but even some of that looks pretty good. But I'm saying generally for major motion picture releases like this stuff, or direct to video, well, maybe not some of those, but the budget, the technology has come to a point where this stuff should naturally just all look good, and you can't really judge it. You can't really critique it at this point. You have to look at the narrative and the story.
Well, that's it. I do agree that it should always look this good at this point, unless you only have like a $10 million budget for whatever reason. But I feel that outside of Pixar, so many studios, I think what happens is a lot of studios come up with an idea, and then they have a year and a half to really get it out before that idea that they had on something is no longer, I guess, current or anything like that. So I feel that there are some films that come out where not all of it is polished. Like, there'll be some things that aren't that great because they have rushed the render, and say, for instance, Suicide Squad.
Oh, I thought you were going to go Jurassic World.
I'm not talking that. That's CG within a live action film. I'm talking purely animated film. That's
so am I, but I had to throw that dig.
I agree. Suicide Squad's a mess on many levels, but that's the least of its problems, actually, the CG.
It's these things where I feel that this was on the higher end of that. Even the films that do look really good, I feel this was on the higher end out of that spectrum, and okay. I really hope that more studios try and make sure that their films are as polished as this one in future, now that the technology is there, because I do think that some studios are more worried about getting their film out there and getting people to go and see it, rather than spending the extra 3 months to make sure it's all fully rendered before it comes out.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy all of the art styles in this one. Like, 'cause, as you said, there's the claymation, or paper mache
Yeah, I wouldn't
mation.
say-
I guess I'm not sure what to call it.
Yeah,
It's not stop
paper
motion,
clay,
but it's similar to stop motion type stuff.
And then,
Yeah, that's what sold it for me. Yeah, like you're saying, Ari, the Pixar stuff, it looks great, and like you say, it should look great. But what sold it for me was the world of the Little Prince.
Yeah.
That just.
Well, maybe the movie should have been that. Maybe it should have done a 30-minute version of just that story in the paper in that style, and I think maybe that would have had more of an impact than trying to wrap around all this other stuff. It seems like they wanted to I think it was an internal thing company wide. Like they want to do two different things. Like one just to be like Pixar. They know how to make movies, and the other one's like no, we want to experiment a little paper mache and make it jazz it up.
The listener that decided to give us another chance, we just lost.
I'm fighting the urge to hit the mute button right now.
Then they took a break and went and slept with their mistresses and came back and they sat at the table again and had a croissant and
that was on the night, everybody.
And bicycle down the street with a baguette.
Thanks for having me as a guest. I really appreciate it. All over the French. No, but that's what I'm saying. I think they were at odds studio wise, and I think they tried to shoehorn both of them to get the best of both worlds. I'm glad they had they got the paper mache stuff in there, but maybe the film would have been a little bit more classic. If it was just a 30-minute short, just on in that style. I would like to see a whole film done in that style, honestly. Like the picture stuff we're used to, like we're so inundated with that style and the shading and this type of animation. We've seen it. It's been done. But the paper mache stuff, I don't think we've seen enough of that.
So I think it serves
cool. I think it's a really great way to tell a story and it gives us such a tactile feel to that when you're watching it. I really dug that end of it. We need more of that. I really feel that might be the way to go.
And I felt the two styles really served the narrative as far as the Pixar world being the standard world.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Prince world being more playful and lively and energetic.
Well, that's because, as I'm sure you're about to go with it's her imagination.
The world of a child,
It's it coming to life in front of her. And it almost felt to me like what was happening is, obviously you saw the airplane and the sheep and stuff all coming to life, and then it was as if she'd taken the pages of the story itself to mold it together to make the paper mache world of the Little Prince. And I thought it was wonderful, and I also liked the opening as well, where it is just brush strokes, and you get to see the drawing just on paper with the silhouette of the people, and then it just went to the Pixar one and the paper mache, and I felt that it was really good because, as you say, we're used to the super clean.
Yeah.
But I don't want to call it the Pixar animation, but you did kind of hit the nail on the head in that's kind of that's what it is.
The Toy Story animation
standard for that very clean style of filming, the proper shading and stuff like that. It's just, they've honed it down to that look. It varies from film to film, obviously, but that basic look, if you look at Up, if you look at, all these other ones have these type of humans that are kind of small and the Incredibles and all that, they all starting to have that same look to it, and that's what I consider the standard look. I mean, DreamWorks does some different stuff, but as far as Pixar goes, like I said, we've been inundated with that type of, for so long. It was refreshing to see a couple different styles of animation utilized here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that the fact that we are so used to that made having the stories that we aren't familiar with in that style helped you to kind of connect with that, because that's all the new stuff. Like, anyone that's read The Little Prince already knows it, and then they get the stories that they already know in a complete, I guess not completely new art style, but such a refreshing take on it that you get the new in familiar and the old in unfamiliar. And I think on top of just having nice visual to look at, I think it's a really good way of telling those stories. Okay. Even if, you weren't the biggest fan of the story.
No, we got some narrative problems. Well, the original story and this film as well. But, yeah.
I mean, one thing that, upon looking up the original story of The Little Prince, is that obviously every asteroid they go to and every character he runs across is an allegory for something. So obviously you got the businessman, all he wants to do is own everything. And that's the the materialistic world, and then you got the
it's the Wizard of Oz,
yeah, and then you got the conceited guy who's just like, well, obviously I'm the most handsome on this planet. It's like, you're the only one on this planet, so I am the most handsome. That's all that matters. And all of these areas, and nowadays, especially, I would argue that most people looking at this film without knowing anything about it would think, oh, it's a kid's film.
And I would kind of warn against that, because I mean, you really have to have patience, even as an adult, to get through. Yeah, there are very quiet moments. It's very subtextual.
Yeah. But that was my next question. What age group do you really feel this is for? Because there is a lot of complex adult stuff going on here throughout, especially the ending, which a lot of kids aren't going to get that. I barely got it. I'm a fully grown adult.
Opinions.
I didn't say functioning. I said fully grown. Functioning is a whole different. Yeah, right. Yeah. But so what it's obviously adults are going to get it. It's geared towards older kids. I think maybe 12 and up. I don't think young kids are really going to be. First of all, I don't think they're going to have the patience to sit through it. Yeah. I think there's a pacing issue here that's going on in the first two acts. It doesn't have the gags and the funniness, and the fart jokes that they're so used to with Pixar and DreamWorks and stuff like that. So young kids aren't going to really sit and really watch it. So this is really for, I'd say 11 and up, maybe even 11 to 13. You're going to be hard pressed. So maybe it is for adults. Maybe this is just an adult film that just happens to be about a young girl.
I mean, to the purpose of the story, adults to reconnect with their childhood.
Yeah, well, I think there's definitely that, but also I really hope that my kid can watch a Pixar film and then also watch this as well, because I feel that this is almost like a better family film than a lot of the Pixar stuff, because it will definitely open up dialogues with the kids. Just if the kid doesn't understand, you're able to say, well, this might be because
let's talk about death.
I personally think that is something.
You're gonna die someday.
I mean, obviously, maybe not do that to.
Not so blunt. There's a reason I'm not a parent, Paul.
Yeah, maybe not do that to a 2-year-old or something. But I think once the kid starts getting old enough to start to realize some of these things, I love that this is the type of film
you don't always need the bright, flashy colors and constant gag.
It's a conversation start along those lines. But also the endings are real cheap, guys. I had a real issue with we were talking about death and acceptance of death and keeping person alive. But then the film doesn't even pull the trigger on the actual death. I think that old man should have fucking died. And
I think it was implied.
It's not implied at all. He lives. At the ending, he's alive. Obviously, he's going to die, but he's checking
he should
have
out.
Died, right? Yeah. No, he should have been checked out, and then she can put two and two together. The experience she had with the Rose and the Prince, on the whatever world that was, and when she came back, she can bridge the gap and understanding this guy's passing. But the problem is he's alive at the end of it, and that's I think undermines the impact.
I thought it was just implied that he's he's on borrowed time here.
He is, but he's not dead. He doesn't fucking die on camera.
You needed that death scene.
We need something. Either pull down your pants or die. One of the two.
Your life motto: pull down your pants or die.
I actually think I don't know how much you were paying attention as it was kind of fading out at the end, but I genuinely do think he did die on screen, because
I don't think so.
Because what happens?
Or are we going back to the crazy girl?
What happens is they're in the bed, and then he's got that book, and he says the line did you see this? And then the mother comes over, and then if you actually just watch him as the camera's coming up and just slowly fading out into the other scene. He kind of leaned back and does not move at all.
He should have went to the window and jumped out, and then she could have looked up like he was flying around, and that would have been
awesome. But that should have been they shouldn't have faded out on that. Then they should have had that. They should have left that scene then. Because I didn't even notice that. I was just like, okay, the scene's over, and now we got to get to the end of the movie. I think we undermine themselves by that.
That happened, and then also just as it's finally fading out, you see the girl look at him, look back at the mum, and they're both there's something on their faces where they realize something just kind of happened there. And then, right at the end when they're looking at the stars, you hear both the prince and the aviator laughing, which
Yeah, see, there could have been a better way to do. I thought we felt were cheated. Also, I thought the last line of the film should have been the mother saying to the daughter, "Did he ever touch you?"
Show me on this doll where he touched you.
Show me on the phone.
Sorry, that's my own.
I'm gonna go take this snow globe and bash his head in.
Yeah, he's dead, but
style.
I just thought, I thought that would have been, because we dealt with all this complex adult stuff in the film and acceptance of death and keeping the person alive in your heart and stuff like that. Really good stuff, guys. There is some really good stuff in here. And then you get to the end of the movie and then it kind of cheats it. It doesn't really follow through on that. And if it's an adult film, which we're kind of agreeing it is geared for either older kids or, fully grown adults, there's no reason why that guy could have expired on screen and have it, have that scene like you're saying, Paul, or you just kind of, and Bridget. And it doesn't even have to be done with dialogue. They could have done that. They could have went all Pixar, like the beginning of Up, and just done it that way, which Up has a much more of an impact than the end of this film, and that was at the beginning of that film. So, I just think that I don't know why usually French have no problem killing people. I don't understand why they just didn't go full retard on this.
Right. We're gonna have to issue a apology to the.
You are giving me such a job later. I'm gonna have to edit around all
I said
this.
some really horrible stuff right now. So yeah, folks, if you're just coming back to the show, there might be an outtakes one. Paul, send me that. I'll throw that. But you see what I'm saying? Though I'm just saying. I thought it really should have went full Monty on that, and I think they kind of shortchanged themselves, especially for the very last shot, which is lame, which is the mother and daughter on top of the roof looking at the stars. I don't think it didn't end that. It should have ended a lot earlier than that, and having that weird payoff scene, which isn't really much of a payoff, It's just a way to end a movie. Oh, they connected because we're looking at stars together. I don't, doesn't. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, one of my favorite little moments in it is actually in the credits just after that scene where you see her telling the story or the beginning of the story to her class. And you just see the look of, like, wow, on everyone's faces.
Yeah, it's like, this is an insane person. Yeah.
But it's like, I really like that idea of, obviously she's now come to understand what it means to be a child and have some imagination in this completely soulless world that exists. And you get to see that, now that she has that and she's trying to give it on to the new generation, and at the very least in the snippet you see, she's having pretty much no luck whatsoever with it.
So what age are you going to show this to your kid? Like what age do you feel that they would be able to, to open the door to conversation? What do you feel would be a good, like when you finally plop down to, once you get past all the Pixar and the fart jokes, what age do you think that you would show this?
I mean, if the kid's anything like I was growing up, then 5 or 6 would be absolutely fine for me. I mean,
come on now.
Oh, yeah, because the stuff that's going to go over their head is going to go over their head, and then they can watch it later.
Oh, so you're saying 5 or 6? Okay, all right. So that you figured all right. That makes about.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, when I was 5 or 6, I was watching TV shows like Thunderbird and Captain Scarlet and Joe 90, like the Jerry Anderson.
Yeah, so if you want to build up a film maturity.
And it's obviously it entirely depends on what your kid can handle.
Mm-hmm.
But
and their own personality
But when I was growing up, I always had a disconnect between, okay, I know this is a film and stuff like that, but I was always willing to ask a question if I didn't understand something, and I always wanted an actual answer. Like
I would have enjoyed being shown this because I was, from a somewhat, very repressed. Not somewhat, very repressed. So everything had to be very kid oriented for me. Adult things were for adults, and that it was very segmented. So anything that might cross the line, I was not allowed to see. Whether I understood it or not.
Yeah,
so, I would appreciate it.
I'm of the opinion that there is no point in talking down to kids. And obviously there's some things they might not understand, and that's when you can talk to them about it. And obviously, when talking to them, you can judge whether or not they're going to understand it at this point, or if you're going to have a conversation at a later date. And I think that this film, obviously, the younger the kid is, the visuals are gonna really get them, and then as they grow up, they'll be able to come to terms with everything that's on the screen.
There are a lot of good themes to take away for kids in this. You know,
there's a lot.
The inner beauty, and balancing work and play, and
what the kids shouldn't be taken away though is after they see this film, hanging out with old people.
go make friends with grandpa.
Who calls themselves Uncle Phil?
Yeah, and go for a ride in their piece of shit car and don't know where you're going.
Exactly. Don't get into a white nondescript van.
Don't help a guy put a chair into that van.
We're gonna fly to the moon. We're gonna go see Little Prince.
Yeah.
That's what not to do. But but you are right. There are some very good themes here that you can kind of young kids can really wrap their head around. I just wish they were a little bit better clarified and presented, but they are there to dig into. And like I said, with an adult present, that help with those questions.
Hopefully, a legal guardian or parent.
Not me. Oh, not me. Not this adult. I mean, maybe.
Yeah, no.
Don't do that.
I don't really know how much more we can get into it. I just...
Did we cover it?
I think we're covered here.
I've insulted the French.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. We made pedophile jokes. I think and what a great, awesome animated film for kids.
That's why we brought you on, is for French insults and pedophile jokes.
I guess the bottom line is it worth a watch? I mean, this is available on Netflix. People, after listening to this podcast, can go right now and watch it immediately. And watch, what's the age range for the kids? I'm saying it's for older kids. I think 5 and 6 is a little old. Paul thinks that might be the right. I mean, I would say, first of all, I'd say if you're going to watch it just watch it yourself before you have your kids watch it. See if your own kids are going to be able to handle some of the complex themes in this film. There are complex themes about death and acceptance and not growing old or growing up but not growing old and keeping your heart alive, which I think is there's a great message there. You have to kind of wade through it. You have to sit with it, and then you have to judge for yourself whether this can be okay for your kids or if it's just okay for you. It's definitely visually, I think it's fantastic. It's one of the better animated films you're going to see in the last couple of years in terms of style. So the presentation is good. I'm just not sure, like narratively, if it's all the way there, especially if kids are going to be, fidgeting through it. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know, guys.
That is going to be the main thing, is whether or not your kid can sit through an hour and 46 minutes of cinema.
Yeah, but I think the kid, your kid best, so, if you think they can handle mature there's nothing I would call inappropriate in this other than, what you might read into that relationship. But there, I don't think you need to get the more complex themes to still enjoy this film.
No, definitely not.
I think you can watch it as just something that is completely different from anything else you're going to see.
Yeah. And I think we need to start by asking Honor what his rating would be for this, because something tells me it's going to be on the lower end.
It is on the low end. I'd say 2 to 2.5. Yeah, 2 to 2.5 stars. And it has to go on the low end because there's some serious narrative problems. I think it could have been streamlined to make it a little bit more, a breezy affair in terms of getting through some of this stuff. Like I said, there's some story issues that really kind of hampered. Even, you have the visual animation, but I found myself checking my watch a lot on this one, and I really should have just been caught up in the magic of this film, and I wasn't. I kept getting thrown out by, miscast actors and, and story points that really, aren't fully explored. The animation's good, but by the time you get to the end, yes, that was an emotional ending. I'm not going to say I wasn't moved by the ending, but man, it takes a while to get to that. And I just don't think it's worth, it's that the setup is worth the payoff at that point. It's a long time to sit to get to that. I think at 30 minutes, this would have been great, and I would have gave it 3 or 4 stars, but as it stands, 2.5. That's where I'm at. But half star for the animation.
That's about a -4 for translation.
And a half star for Jeff Bridges not showing his dick. So.
Wait, is that a punishment or a reward?
Well, it depends on the mood you're in.
Take it as you will.
Is that star half full or half empty?
So where do you guys sit? Next.
All right. Well, Brian, why don't you go first?
If we're gonna use the Blockbusters, our 0 perfect score to -10, taking off, points as we go, for various attractions, I would, pretty much the text I said, Paul kind of said everything after I first watched it, because we were deciding on this, and I what did I say, just wow, or something like that?
I believe that was yours.
I was really moved by the story. as you know, we've been talking here, Honor, you've kind of brought me around a little bit as far as some of the runtime issues and a little bit of the pacing. But I was never, watching as much, as you were. I was just blown away by the Prince world, the animation there. Hey, tour's starting soon at Prince World.
And now Purple Rain's Prince.
No, not the what's the house? Yeah, whatever. But
I believe he did
Paisley Park. Yeah, Paisley Park. You can go do tours. Yeah, you can go for that.
Now, if it was about the Prince dying in his elevator, like the old man, right?
Yeah,
you got a whole different movie, right?
I did. Yeah. Like I said, I did really enjoy it. Some of the casting issues were a little weird, but it never bothered me to the extent where it really pulled me out of the story.
Yeah.
I would go with probably a -0.5, like or a -0.5, a -1 maybe. I watched it twice. I got just as much enjoyment out of it the second time.
Twice?
Yeah. I wanted to get into some of those themes a little more the second time around. Yeah. And I really love this film. I think if your kid handles more adult things, or if they seem to be on the more mature side, I think it's fine for 8-9-year-olds. I mean, even younger. Because they're not going to get the impermanent thing. The impermanence.
Maybe not. Yeah. Again, depends on the kid in question.
But I think it is important to have to show these types of films to kids that they don't need to have, as attention spans are so waning as they are these days, to be able to sit and enjoy this type of film, whether it's this film or not, just where you really have to let the story play out, where it's not constant gags. And
I think kids with Asperger's really enjoy this film.
Well, there's your post.
ADHD kids not so much, but
maybe not French Asperger's.
Like high end on the spectrum Asperger's, not the low end like droolers. I'm talking like the high end ones. I think would really, really appreciate the complex themes and stuff like that. That might be another edit point, guys. I don't know. I'm giving you the edit points. I'm doing your job for you.
I think we gotta say goodbye on this before.
Given where I work, I don't think I can, in good conscience, leave that in.
I don't think you can.
Oh man, can you imagine all the good material lost today, folks? But a disclaimer. I don't think. Just might want to just link them right over to our show. All right, Paul. Paul, where do you fall on your spectrum? Your rating spectrum.
Not your Asperger's.
Well, number one, I think I'm just going to say this now so I can put it at the beginning.
Okay.
The thoughts and comments presented by Honor Knight do not reflect the thoughts and comments of the Blokebusters podcast.
Okay. And sometimes not that of Honor Knight.
Yeah, exactly. That was good. All right, now that being said, where do you fall on?
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah. my thoughts on this film, obviously, as we went through, I've been trying to put my point of view across, and some of you didn't enjoy the amount of time this film spent on some things, where I loved how they were able to build things in. For instance, so the adults right at the beginning telling the person why did you draw that? That's just stupid. And those adults being the adults from later in the film, when she's vacuuming the stars off the ceiling, the shot you see of her vacuuming them out, and then you see them in the vacuum cleaner, and it's held on that, and it's she's giving up on this world. You're seeing her destroy that world, and then later when she goes to find the prince, and you realize, oh, this is what the businessman has done. He's collected all these stars in this giant dome, and also, even so small as the alarm that the prince has on his watch is the exact same alarm that she has in her watch that's been telling her to do this stuff throughout the film. I love that. There's so many things that you didn't realize that they were going to bring back later, and so many things that were great on their own and then came back even better later. And I didn't mind any of the casting choices. Obviously, I didn't have an issue with Mr. Bridges and his what was it you called it, Donna?
Mouthful of horse shit.
Mouthful of horse shit.
If I
His
remember.
RIPD voice. His RIPD voice, yeah.
I didn't mind any of that. I love the art styles. Like, just so great to watch that. And I think I'm going to have to go by the text message that I sent to Brian after I watched it, which the first one just said, Brian, ...
Yeah.
And then
Ominous,
I think
thank you.
this film might be better than The Martian. And I stand by that after a second watch. Like, this film is, to me, like, it is perfect. I didn't find a single thing wrong with it. Even after you've been going over some stuff, and I can see why some people would see things differently. I can definitely see why there would be the creepy pedophile vibe coming from the old man, but I just didn't get that on either watch. Even though I knew it might be there, it didn't hit me that way at all. And I loved the pacing of the film. I loved all the relationships within it. And I did also tell Brian as I was watching it that the room got a bit dusty.
Which is,
which coming from me.
Yeah, that does not happen.
No,
yeah, so maybe Jamie was cutting some onions.
Well, I think maybe it's because I'm 6 weeks away from becoming a father. I mean, maybe that's it. I don't know. It's just, I can't give this film anything other than a 0. Like, I just can't. And
just a reminder, zeros are good in the blockbuster world.
Zero means you found no fault
and that was
whatsoever.
I was fully intended to.
Well, I wonder why you guys have like no
honor
listeners, though. You got a fucked up rating system. Who the hell's gonna be able to follow 0? Nobody knows it. Guys, just do a normal star system. What the hell?
We'll give it an overhaul someday.
What the hell you're talking about?
We like to be difficult, okay?
Everything's on a sliding scale with you guys. -5. I don't even know where I would rate it then at that. But I don't even know. You guys got to send me a graphic or something before we do these.
We'll send you the algorithm that you can use.
Yeah.
That's right. We never specifically tell people that come on this, like, you have to abide by our system. We just...
No, I have no problem. If I'd known it, I would have just adjusted the thing to you. So you gotta let me know then, and then I would have... I don't know where I would put... Now, I guess, -8? I don't know what the -7... I don't know how the hell you do it, but that's where I guess I fall. 2.5 stars doesn't mean shit on your show because you had a whole different system. Oh, man.
We don't know what that means.
Let me vacuum up all my stars in my vacuum cleaner. Go back to the restroom.
Okay, we'll get some paper clips and start checking that. So basically for you, 2.5 star dead middle. So let's just say -5 around that because why not? Let's just go into it now. The reason we came up with that system was we didn't want to be either 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 because then everything falls right in the middle or just above or below the middle. Like you either get 10 best film ever.
We wanted a little
6,
bit of ways.
5.
It's a way to separate great films from good films.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And then also because it's entirely personal, like 0 to 0.5 and even 1 is I found some things that I didn't like, but it's still a fantastic film.
Yeah, it can be objective or subjective. So it doesn't. Yeah, there's no. It doesn't mean anything either way.
and we base. We've had some people say you have a very negative system, and
by its nature, it is negative.
Literally, they are correct.
Literally, yeah.
But it's been something that we've kind of enjoyed embracing on this. The very first time either of us gave a 0 was when we both did The Martian. And we both ended up...
The easiest way I explain it to people is like a -2, it's kind of the inverse of like Rotten Tomatoes. So a -2 would kind of be like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
Like a -8 is like a 20%. So it's an easy way to kind of translate that over.
It's just we don't want to like specifically stick with the parallel because then we might get stuck just giving it a 7 out of 5. 7 out of 5? Well,
7 out of 5 might be hard to accomplish.
I think that would be breaking the system again. But,
that's probably why we didn't do that. Because we can't give 7 stars. Okay.
All right. Well,
I think that's enough.
Yeah, definitely. With that rehashing of the system there, so for anyone that didn't know ahead of time, and
like your guest. Jesus Christ. The most important person you want to let know what the system was.
I was trying to get the explanation out there, but yeah, it's alright.
Yeah, obviously you weren't listening.
I gotta start listening to your show. Holy shit.
Yeah, and then also to the host when you're on the said show.
yeah, that too. Yeah, that too.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, well, why don't you go into your spiel? Where can people find you?
Yeah,
you like more of his humor?
if you want to find more of this, outrageously inappropriate humor, you can go over to signalsoffury.com. Soiled Restroom Cinemas, the podcast. We are in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, all those outlets. You can subscribe, rate, and review myself, my co-cinematic flushers, Kayleen Griffin and Nora Crest. Every week we scour the bowels of Hollywood to bring you the absolute worst that Hollywood has to offer. Some of them are really, really bad. Not this one, but some of the other ones. We're here to flush it, so you don't have to see it. So there you go, signalsoffury.com.
Yes, and it really is a lot of fun. I've been on it several times. Brian's been on it as well.
It's fun to listen to.
Yeah, it's like, obviously we do a lot of films where we really like it, and sometimes it's just as much fun to shit all over.
Yeah.
Which, assuming I release these in the order we record them, there might be something
nicely.
coming up very soon. So,
all right.
So I think that's definitely it from us. So I've been Paul.
I've been Brian. Viva la France.
See.
We're screwed. We are so screwed.